Okay.
All right. This is D&D Ravnica session 0, number 5. And I think I need at least one more of these before I have a full party. But this session we are featuring Dustin and his amazing character, and this small introduction to your character,
Morgothel the Rager.
who is a Minotaur barbarian from the Theros blocks. This is our second character from Theros, which would be interesting. But we'll see how things go. So, Morgothel's quick story is he was did the barbarian backstory of raised by himself in the woods, then trained by some mercenaries who then betrayed him, and then he fell in love, and then was betrayed by humans, and now hates everything.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's pretty much it. It's a quick backstory. I'm trying not to go super in depth with everyone's backstories because as I record these sessions, it would be more interesting for people to pick up on them as we go.
Understandable.
But the backstory you've given me is about a level 4, level 5-ish backstory, honestly. So you don't really need too many levels into your backstory.
Oh yeah, I mean, kind of after the end of the backstory, he's pretty much doing more of the same, going to various places and pretty much just
but I'm gonna give
killing
him
everything.
But I'm gonna give him a very sweet and satisfying send off from Theros. So your travels have been mostly, like you said before, or how we talked a little bit before this, is that you attack things that are hostile to you, and you enjoy it. And during your travels, you hear of a certain mercenary group has started back up.
The Bloody Tears.
Exactly. So
I will have my reckoning.
Exactly. So you go out and well, you don't even think about recruiting people because this is a blood rage at this point. But you track them down, and since you were taught tactics, I'm assuming you're going to wait till the night, slaughter them in their sleep. And then the ones that resist, you crush them underhand.
He would actually probably wait till dawn or dusk, seeing as how he cannot see very well in the dark.
Oh, that is true. I forget Minotaurs don't have low light vision. That's my fault. You think that, like, out of one of the monster races they'd have low light vision, but they don't.
And, you know, the idea of them being really good in mazes, you would think.
Yeah. I forgot that you're good at mazes. I'm going to send you guys to a maze later on in the game. He's like, huh, maze. Easy. Anyways, so yeah, you'll wait till right about people have started waking up, so they haven't even got their breakfast in yet. And, you get a good... They've got a sizable camp this time, compared to last time where you assume, I don't know, based on what you told me, they were a small mercenary group last time. This time around, I'm gonna say they're about a medium-sized, you know, a little bit bigger than you remember last time. So the leader's been up to some work to get this many people.
Just more fodder.
Exactly. So I'm gonna have you start ripping through these people, taking hits here and there. But you know, you're a barbarian, so you're in rage mode. So you take more hits than you should. And you get through everything, and they start mounting a defense. But this defense is pitiful. But you're still taking your wounds as you go along. And you basically end up cornering them and their camp, which overlooks a small cliff, by the way, so you only really attack from one angle. And you corner the leader, I forget his name, and several of his goonies. We're assuming they're his generals, or what you would consider his lieutenants, I guess? Mercenary lieutenants?
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the name of the general. You gave me his name earlier.
Oh, Darvin.
Darvin. I don't know why I couldn't remember that one. That was such a nice and easy name. Can't use the excuse I used in other campaigns. But you countered Darvin!
Humans have simple names.
Yes. You encountered Darvin. You think you want to say to Darvin as he's like trying his best to muster his men to defend himself?
Morgothel just pretty much bellows at him and says, "Darvin,
He's like,
I've returned for you."
well, he's cornered, so he's like, well, we'll see if you can match your strength. I'm assuming Darvin's the one that kept beating you guys when you were trained originally.
He was, yes.
Yeah, so this will be a nice matchup. But he sends his men after you first because he's a coward. So after you crush through the men, taking more hits as you know, you finally square off with him, and he's just as formidable as you remember. Yet he is weak, for he is human. You're used to this shiny metal armor now. You know how to get through it. The fight is long and tedious. Ends with you backing him up to the cliff where he can't go much further. You are both beyond bloody and very wounded. And he besmirches you and taunts you. He's like, ha, if we die, at least I die not a monster.
Your kind are the worst of the monsters.
Ha! That's what you think. And he's like, scum, and he taunts you. I kind of want you to charge him, but that's up to your character.
Oh yeah, I totally charge him.
Okay.
Just straight up lowering my head and trying to gore him.
Alright. Well, he tries to dodge you, but it's not super successful, as you still get him with one of your horns. But he's like, well. He's like, well, let's have a more proper discussion in hell, as he grabs you and uses the last moments of his, what I would consider a legendary action for a boss, to pull you and him off the side of the cliff. But, you can tell that he's pretty much dead at that point. That was the last of his strength. He kind of dies on the way down. And you're like, I get some sort of peace before death. A glorious battle. As you wrench to the bottom. And before you even hit the bottom, the next thing you feel is like a jolt of electricity. And your whole body. And, you know, it doesn't even hurt. It's just a very odd sensation. And you feel yourself moving very fast in a different direction instead of for down. And the last thing you remember is a campfire, some huts, and some ruins. And you collapse. And then the next thing you remember is waking up in a hut fully bandaged. And it's a small hut. Well, it's a pretty decent sized hut. There's no one there keeping eyes on you, but you do hear commotion outside, where you assume the campfire is gathered around, and you smell cooked meat.
I boldly walk out of this hut.
You walk
around.
You walk out of this hut into a group of an odd group of people. Just surveying them. Let me bring up here. Off to the right, on the side tending the fire and the meat, you see two twins, or two wood elves. Look to be about twins tending the meat. They seem to be seasoning it instead of just cooking it. And Off to the right, or I said off to the right with them. Off to the left, you see another Minotaur sitting there. Currently, he seems to be sharpening his axe, and he's got a. You see off to the side, there's some chopped firewood, and further on north, you see a very large creature that you're not quite sure of. I don't think, but after pondering it for a moment, you've heard story of these, what you would call an ogre, sitting there. He seems to be just chilling, watching the fire, and then everyone turns to look at you, and as you walk out, and they go, and the ogre's from the first one to speak, and he's like, "Oh, you're awake."
I completely ignore him and turn my head towards the other Minotaur, and in our native tongue said, "Brother, why are you in such filthy company?"
The other Minotaur looks up to you, and he's like, "Well," in Minotaur language, "you must not be of the Gruul clan. Are you Boros?"
"What is Boros?"
He's like,
"I am Morgotho, the Rager."
"It's quite a strong name you got there." And he's like, "I'm Gaz, the Demolisher."
"Then come, brother, let us demolish these weaklings."
Those two elves might be weak, but their magical skills are very effective. And then he points at the ogre, and he's like, I can't be drunk here, even on my best day." And he's like, "Besides, judging from your clothes, chill, have food. You're in good company here."
"A company of murderers and thieves."
"Thieves? Ha! No. We don't steal. We get to break things." He's like, "We're feasting before we go on our glorious smashing fest tomorrow. You could join us, see what it's about."
He kind of narrows his eyes at the other Minotaur, and then turns and walks towards the elves.
The elves are a little apprehensive because you said before you give off like a hostile aura at all times. So the elves are just like, "How do you like your meat, boss?"
He doesn't speak to him. He just reaches over and grabs the meat and the spit and starts eating as he walks away, probably around 30 feet from the other Minotaur, who kind of slumps down and just eats the meat. Doesn't really matter if it's raw or half cooked or slightly seasoned. He just digs into it.
The other elf's like, "You must like it raw then." He's like, yes, we only got done searing it." He's like, "Well, Druck, you're right, he was hungry." And Druck's like, "He's been asleep for 4 days. I would be hungry too." He's like, "The boss will be back soon. He went out hunting." It's like, you can meet him then. I'm assuming that Gaz told you about the tomorrow's festivities. Man of your strength could be well useful in our festivities for tomorrow.
Again, he just straight up ignores the elves and turns toward Gaz again. He's like, "The human that was with me, is he dead?"
You had human blood on you. The amount of blood that was on you, I don't think any human could have survived that. However, you were alone when you showed up here. course, we found you passed out at the camp while most of us were away. Don't quite know how you got here.
And kind of for the first time, he's looking around at the lay of the land.
So, like, before, I said that you remember, huts, a campfire, and ruins. The huts and the campfire are, huts and campfire. They're kind of the same no matter where you are. The ruins, however, those are interesting, now that you're looking around. The ruins, it appears that, like, this would be considered, like, almost like a flatlands area. But these ruins are, starting to overgrown with the foliage and stuff like that. But some of these ruins look like what used to be massive buildings. And they're quite around you. There's quite a lot around you. Like the road that would have been like a straight, like paved road is broken up. There's trees growing through certain parts of it. There's grasslands.
Before I blacked out, wasn't I in more of a mountainous region?
You were in more of a mountain region. Right now, you're in a very flatlands area.
So he's looking around and he's like, "Where am I? Where have you brought me?"
Well, you showed up here, first of all. Well, I don't know how you showed up here. None of us were in camp when you showed up here. But you were passed out, quite badly wounded and covered in human blood. So whoever you were fighting, they must have pissed you off.
And he looks over at Gaz again and he's like, "And you bandaged me, did you?"
Actually, no, that would have been... Let me go over here. That would have been Zog, but Zog is out with the boss hunting. Zog's our healer here. He's good with medicines.
Zog, this is not a Minotaur name.
No. Actually, he was raised by he was raised by ogres. Yes.
Raising.
Oh, yes.
I thought they not had the intelligence to.
He laughs at that. He's like, he could probably beat drunk at a word game. But the man's got good strength. He's a good brother in arms, especially for tomorrow's festivities. By the way, this ogre's a little bit bigger than... the Minotaurs are like, what, 7-8 foot tall? This ogre's like 9-10 foot tall. So he's a little bit bigger.
Yep.
But as far as you can... Yeah.
I just kind of fall silent again and chomping on this meat, even going so far as like...
Now, about this meat, now that you've calmed down a little bit and you're chomped down back on it, you're like, huh, this is a weird tasting meat. I don't think I've ever had anything like this before. Even though, it's obviously it's seasoned, but it's not seasoned that much differently. As far as you could tell, they basically only added like salt or something to it. But they didn't get that far into the cooking process before you decided just to eat it. But it's an animal. Now that you're biting into it, you're like, huh, I've never had this animal before. It's just one of those things where it tastes different from what you're used to. And you can tell that it's not something you've had before. But it's good. It's some form of bovine, kind of boar-ish mix animal. But it is indeed red meat.
And I'll just look at him as like, is this oxen? Buffalo?
Nope. That's a thrag tusk you got right there.
Rag tusk.
Yeah. Best described, it's like a mix of boar and a mix of ox. Yeah, it's bigger than Druck. That's what's left of it.
A pity.
Yes. I think the boss went to hunt a couple more. Meat for later.
This boss. Who is he?
He's like, his name is Grahurk. And well, it's easier to see him to explain what he is.
Very well.
And like I said, the ruinous place is really weird, and they're all sitting around eating. The elves and the ogre spark up a conversation. They're just talking about tomorrow's festivities, and then like I said, the elves are twins, but they're like a male-female twin. So the male's just like, man, I can't wait to smash tomorrow, and the female's like, I've made a new spell just for tomorrow. It's gonna be explosive. And then Druck's like, you guys rely on magic too much, and then he's like, oh, but magical explosions are the best.
Morgotho's just sitting there taking all of this in, kind of confused as to how these three races are sitting around a fire together.
Oh, now that you're looking at them a little bit more closely, you notice they all have similar tattoos. Very similar tattoos. Almost like they're part of the same tribe.
And I just kind of whisper under my breath, mercenaries.
But these tattoos are large and very tribal. They're not like a mercenary tattoo, like where they have one on their neck. We're talking like some of these guys have, like Druck, the ogre. He's bald, but he has tattoos all over him. Your Minotaur friend doesn't have. Well, he has tattoos on his chest where he doesn't have fur, but the rest of his fur, he covers everything else. And he's one second, I'm gonna see if he heard you. I'm assuming did you say that in Minotaur or did you say that in Common?
I have exclusively spoken Minotaur.
Oh, gotcha. Did he
I've pretty much only spoken to Gaz. I have not even acknowledged the rest of them.
Yeah, he heard you. And he goes, not mercenaries. Mercenaries fight people. We get to smash things.
And what things do you smash?
Well, we were told tomorrow it's going to be quite a lot more than usual. And he basically starts going over, he's like, yes. The other day I took down a whole building. It was fantastic.
A building. And he's kind of saying that in a derisive tone.
Yes. The ruins you see around you, although it's been quite a while, were once brought down by our Gruul forefathers. The building right over there, he points to what looks like one of those ones I said it was massive. It took about 30 of our brothers to bring that one down, returning the civilization to the wild.
And he kind of looks around at all these ruins and it's like, a coward fights with stone.
He's like, it's all part of the grand plan, you see. We could fight each other from time to time, but our true calling is returning this world to the wild. He's like the travesty of all the man-made elements. He's like,
he kind of grunts in half agreement.
He's like truly the wild is the best place, the best way to live. And he goes on like almost religious tirade about how the man-made structures pollute the land and disrupt the natural flow of the world mana and the land, and how him and the Gruul they fight the good fight, reducing the civilization to ashes. He's like, before we were a little bit more bloodthirsty. We would just raid random settlements and crush them and destroy the buildings on top of them. Now we're in a little bit of agreement to only go after settlements. If we go after a settlement with people living in it, there are settlements of people that civilization would not want. But we still get to destroy a lot more buildings now. Returning the world, he's basically going like, he makes sense that like they used to be a little bit more bloodthirsty and would just go on a rampage at civilized locations. Now they're more like, well, I say civilized, but I mean like where people were still living there. Now the only time they get to do that is like when they're like, there's a bandits hiding out here, and they're like, oh, cool, we get to destroy that for free or for fun, and them. Which is like, he's like, but then he looks over and he says, which is why I'm really interested in tomorrow, because there's quite a lot of slavers we get to take out tomorrow. Those that would capture your and my kind and have them worked to death.
At that, he kind of, Morgotho starts to get a little angry. He says, be that as it may, your old way was better. What good is knocking down buildings when the humans will simply rebuild them?
You say that, but everything that we knock down, we get a solemn vow that it won't be built upon for hundreds of years. Allowing nature to reclaim most of it. Allowing us to reclaim more civilization in the process. It's more of an arms race. Could they build faster than we can destroy? We take it as a challenge. We're quite good at smashing.
Morgotho's just kind of stay silent. This is confusing to him. Why would you kill buildings when you could kill people?
He's like, you haven't seen the buildings. And at that, you start hearing a low rumbling. Sounding like boom, boom, boom. And it's in rhythm, like someone's walking. But it's a lot larger.
Morgotho starts to kind of look around to see what it is that's coming.
And then off the distance in the little tree line, you see the birds flying away. And then that's when your Minotaur friend looks up and goes, the boss will be here any second. Like I said, you'll get to meet him. And then as it approaches, more and more birds fly away, and you see a massive hand reach out and push a tree to the side. As a guy about the same size as the tree walks out, wearing, barbarian attire, leathers and furs, with the same tattoos, and you look up and you're like, man, this is a giant. But then when you get to the top, he has 2 heads.
Would Morgotho have seen something like this?
He would hear stories of it. I don't think he would have seen one intentionally on his travels. So after pausing for a moment, he goes, an Etten. And he's like, yes, that's Gra Herc. The one on the left is Gra, the one on the right is Herc. He's our band leader. They'll be leading the charge in tomorrow's demolition.
Once again, Morgotho is utterly confused at all of these different races seemingly gathered together without fighting.
Yep. And on the other hand that he didn't use to part the trees, he has this creature that they were talking about earlier. He has a dead one hanging off of a rope. Or some ropes. And yeah, the creature's bigger than you. And of course, he's an Etten, so he's even bigger than the creature. But the the giant boar bovine creature goes up to the Ettin's like thigh, if he was to hold it to the ground, and you would come up to maybe the Ettin's knee. And he just walks over and he's like, and then the one on the right, Gra, starts first, and he's like, Hook, our traveler, or our visitor has awoken. And then Herc's like, he has. Are you enjoying the meat? 'Twas a good hunt. He just walks over, and he's like, he hands the boar over to Druck and the twins, and he's like, go prepare this. There will be more. There will be more of that after they get done preparing it. And then, you didn't notice the person behind him because the ogre or the Ettin was so tall. But there's this guy in shaman robes trailing behind him with a shaman staff, same tattoos as the Ettin and everyone else. But if you look him up and down, you can see that he's a human.
When he sees him, he stands up. He's like, human mage. You're the one who brought me here, aren't you?
As much as I take credit for summoning a brave warrior as yourself, I was with the boss. I'm his counselor when it comes to magical affairs. And the healer of this party. I'm the one who bandaged you.
Touched by a human?
He's like, what? Did I do something wrong? Do you not feel better? By the way, you obviously don't feel any pain at all. You did quite a good job.
And that he's trying to process a human healing him, and he's just kind of growling and glaring.
It's like you got into a nasty scrape. He's like, I didn't even know you were going to pull through it first. But you did. And he's like, glory to the raised boar. And then he's like, he goes and says, I will go and help the others. And then he leaves the Ettin and goes and helps the ogre and the two twin elves prepare the food. And then the Ettin strides over and takes an Indian stance next to the fire. And he's like, so have you figured out where our friend comes from? And he's like, he doesn't know about the Boros or the Gruul. Don't know where he's from, but he could most definitely be useful in tomorrow's smashing. Although he hasn't quite agreed to it yet. He's like, yes, tomorrow will be great. To do battle with those that would harm and slave the others. It's been quite some time.
And Morgotho, hearing them pretty much talk about him without talking directly to him, he kind of stands up and he says, Grahuk, why do you ally yourselves with these pointy ears and these humans?
Well, they are much of the Gruul clan as us. They have gone through the rites. They have gone through the rites. They have earned their stripes, their tattoos. Normally, I would not.
What clan is this?
We are the Gruul clan. We are but a small band of the Gruul clan. The Gruul clan is much larger. We encompass a wide range. I am of the Gore tribe of the Gore clan.
And he's like, Gruul, I have not heard of this clan. Is it from the Ukran Highlands?
He's like, I've never heard of the Akron Highlands. And we have been alive for quite some time. He's like, you must be from another part of the realm. And then Herc has just been kind of quiet, and he's like, But I didn't know of any other lands on the map I looked at. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't think there's any highlands, as the two heads are talking to each other, any highlands on the map of Ravnica.
What is Ravnica?
And then they both...
Is this not Theros?
And they both go... And then Herx goes, that makes a lot more sense. He's not even of the realm. He must be a planeswalker. He's even mightier warrior than I thought. And then
Who said that?
Herc, the head on the left. Or the head on the right. From your point of view, it'd be the head on the right. From his point of view, it's the head on the left.
I'm kind of looking between the heads.
They have a different intelligence. You can tell Herc is smarter than Gra, but Gra is more tactical and more of a people person.
I turn back towards the other Minotaur. I done forgot his name.
Gaz, I'm cooking while I'm doing this.
I think it was Gaz.
Yes, Gaz. Gaz is the other Minotaur.
And I say to him in Minotaur, he's like, what do these heads prattle on about?
Oh,
what is Ravnica? Where am I?
I'm not good when it comes to this stuff. But as far as I know, he kind of picks up a rock. He's like, that rock would be Theros. That's the world we live in. This rock would be Ravnica. It's a different world. You're in a completely different place.
How?
Well, I've heard stories. The boss says a planeswalker. It's some form of warrior that can go between the worlds. He's like, if you showed up here, and our shaman or our elves didn't do it, which they wouldn't lie to the boss. Well, they wouldn't lie if they didn't want the punishment. Then that would make you a planeswalker. He's like, so you'd be like, so you're a mighty magical warrior.
Magic is for the weak and the cowardly. Are you calling me a coward,
He's
brother?
like, no, I would not. It all depends on how you use your magic. A person who uses magic in combat? Yes, I think the elves are a coward for using their magic in combat. However, someone who uses magic to heal their brothers outside of combat, I consider that a great honor.
The weak should die. Why be a burden on others?
Well, it depends. If a great warrior fights another great warrior, but barely comes out on top, would you sacrifice both great warriors? Or would you save the one that was victorious, but simply suffered wounds?
That kind of stumps him, as he realizes that's pretty much the situation he was just in. So he's not actually going to say anything to that. Just kind of pops back down, brooding, and yells over for the first time to the elves, "More meat!"
He's like, "Aye, we're on it. The thing is huge. It takes a minute to cut." And then as they say that, that's when they come around the corner with spits, and they're they got the drum, a thing of ribs, and they start putting it on the fire. It'll be just a few more minutes. We start seasoning it. Bring out the flavor. And Gra and Hook are like, Judging from your interaction just now, because he just saw you and him basically have an argument, he's like, you don't even know what a planeswalker is yourself. And that's what Herc and the smart one, he's like, we may have to actually call on... I forgot her name. I wrote her down. I keep forgetting names. Serena. We may actually have to call on her. Never thought we'd actually have to use that woman. And then Grook's like, don't worry, Serena's just someone who knows more about planeswalkers. But that'll be after tomorrow's festivities. Come. And then
Festivities. I've never met people so eager to destroy buildings.
like I said before, tomorrow we get to destroy more than just buildings. We get to take down slavers. He's like, I'm very eager to fight, and then Ra's like, I'm very eager to fight. I hear they have the employ of a giant. I'm going to take them down.
Flavor, you say?
He's like, yes.
They would be worthy of them.
Yes, exactly.
Very well. I will assist you in your festivities.
Not to mention we get to bring down all the buildings surrounding them.
I will leave that to you.
And he's like, when we found you, you were without weapon. And he reaches over, and he basically throws you a weapon, and it's a very large, very, very large maul. And he's like, this will be appropriate, no?
Morgatho kind of stands up, takes a couple of test swings, just testing the weight of it.
As you're swinging it, you would originally thought this would be, even though you are quite a proficient warrior, you would have thought, I would think that I wouldn't be able to wield this. It's quite a large, but you wield it quite well. More than you thought you would be able to. Even though it is quite hefty, it's definitely a good smashing tool. Either be it skulls or buildings.
Yeah, he just kind of tests the weight of it a little bit, and then swings it down in a big arc right in front of him, throwing up a bunch of grass and dirt.
He's like,
this will work.
Yes. Just gonna say, go ahead and add to your character shirt. That's a maul that does 2d8 instead of 2d6.
Oh, nice.
It's a large maul, which means it's bigger than a normal maul.
It is still two-handed?
Yes, you still have to wield it two-handed.
Okay, wonderful. It's just lighter than what I think it should be.
You from the size of it, you would have thought, oh man, this thing is going to be heavy. I'm not going to be able to wield this. I'm going to look weak for a second. Then you pick it up, and you're like, oh no, this thing is, I got this. This thing is weak sauce.
Okay, let me add that to my character sheet right quick. I really wish that D&D Beyond would let you customize weapons.
Yeah. Might have to go into your Roll20. I think you made your character in Roll20 already, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Might have to go in there and do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And just edit it in there. So that does 2d8 plus strength.
Correct.
Wonderful.
It is a large maul, which means it's a size category larger than you. would normally wield. So you're a medium creature, you would wield a medium weapon. This is a weapon made for a large creature, but you wield it.
Gotcha.
You wield it like it's a medium weapon. It does not hinder you.
Alrighty.
If you're wondering, you can also add into your racial features the ability Monkey Grip.
Monkey Grip?
Correct. It is basically it's basically you can wield weapons one size category larger. So if you were out in the wild and there was a giant with a large shield or a giant with a large warhammer that you wanted, you could just pick it up and take it.
Nice.
That's part 1 of your Planeswalker ability. I'm giving you that. It's a 3.5 feet. It lets you wield larger weapons at a penalty instead of not being able to wield them at all, but I'm giving it to you as a without penalty. And he's like, good. He's like, unless you have more questions, we should eat and then rest for tomorrow's festivities.
Very well.
And he's like, you'll get to see more of the Gruul clan. But I have the honor of leading the charge today. Again, I'm looking forward to it.
He just kind of grunts in reply and settles down, waiting on his food.
Alright. I'm going to kind of fade to black. You eventually get your food. Y'all eat. This is good. This is good food.
He goes off a good 50 feet to go to sleep.
Sounds good. They give you your space. And then they wake you about... What is it? It's not dawn. It's dusk is when the light's just coming up?
Dusk is when it's going down.
Okay, dawn. I always forget the two. I don't know why I always forget the two. I should remember this as an adult, but I don't.
It's not terms we use anymore very much.
Yeah. They come to get you at dawn. And you're like, it's time to march. And then you follow them for about an hour. And as you're following them, more tribesmen seem to come and join you of different bands. More minotaurs. You see centaurs. More elves. There are some more humans as well. Ogres. A couple more giants. And yeah, it's a very motley crew. You're like, wow. Okay, before I thought, this is a weird mix of races. Now you're looking at like they have a very, very wide variety. It's not like any one race is outnumbering the other either. It's a very well balanced mix.
He's just going to kind of take all this in. He's still a little confused about that.
And as you guys are marching, the ruins are still ruins, but off in the distance you see what they were talking about. And these are some massive structures. And the civilization, pretty much almost looks like it touches the sky. It's large. Very large. Which it does touch the sky, you just haven't got there yet. And Gaz is walking with you in case you want to ask questions.
Morgato at this point it's pretty straightforward. We go here, we kill things, and then you guys are going to tear down these structures. But at this point, he's looking at these structures and it's like, how in the world could anyone throw that down?
And then Gaz is like, look, only a mighty warrior can bring down structures of that size. Reclaim the civilization for the land. He's like, I call dibs on that one, and points to a rather large building. As y'all approach the building, the tribe they get together and they kind of make a very unorganized, chaotic line, and then boss man Grauherk walks forward and he's like, Brooklyn, today we get a treat. Criminals hold this section of the city as their home. Slavers, the worst of the worst. Today we writ vengeance as well as claim the city. And then everyone's like, roar! And he's like, onward! And like he raises his huge ass great club, and then like they blow the war horns, and everyone just starts running, like rampaging forward. Stampede. I'm assuming you join in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you get through the first part of the city, and like you literally catch people off guard, and like they're wearing like shiny armor, and it's not any, it doesn't look like they're part of any like group or what, mismatched armor basically. And you see that what is it? Gaz is next to you, but a centaur has run past you. It takes a good swipe at him as he runs past, and then goes for the closest wall and takes his maul to it, busting out the corner of the wall. And then the few people that are just getting caught are like, the gruel, and they're like, sound the bells. And then as y'all run in, I'm assuming you go for the first person.
Absolutely.
I'm not even gonna roll. You smash the shit out of this man. He's not ready. You don't even have to start. We're not even gonna roll here. This is all role play. You're gonna have fun, go through, and then Gaz has found his building and he's like, "That's mine," and he runs in, and then if you want to follow him or not, it's up to you. You're just going after the people out in the street and the slavers.
At this point, he enters into a rage, and anyone that doesn't have tattoos, he's going after the closest one, killing him, then going to the next closest one and killing him, and just is not going to stop until there's no more enemies in front of him.
Alright, sounds like a good, fun combat. This whole while you're doing that, you get to see off in the distance, you see the boss man is in trio combat. He's against like two other giants, and he's just fucking beating the shit out of them, slapping them around. You see the elf twins blowing shit up like they said they would. You see a bunch of centaurs and stuff trampling over these slavers and shit like that. They're bringing down buildings left and right. You finally see that building off in the distance go down, and Gaz emerges from the rubble. Rah! He's taking it down with his maul. And this battle goes on for a couple hours. And they basically rage from like a little bit after dawn to a little bit to the afternoon. You've killed quite a lot of people, but so have others. And oh, my headset's dying already. Fuck you, headset.
Language. YouTube will demonetize you.
I already have it marked as not for kids. We'll be alright.
Ah, okay.
I think one of my videos got demonetized anyways because the music in the background.
Oh.
Of course, I wasn't looking for monetization. I don't think anyone's even viewed them. But that means I had to plug in my headset while I'm over here cooking. But yeah, they set the prisoners free, and And then they relish in the destroyed city, and they start burning the bodies and the stuff that burns, and a nice large bonfire in the middle. And then you see that the support people that didn't take part in the charge, bringing up the rear, which would be like the women, the healers, the children that didn't partake, bringing in the food for the feast after the fighting. And they'll have a nice after bloody massacre and demolishing feast. And they give a nice little rousing. We have claimed this area for the land again, and done justice. And everyone's like, whoa. He's like, no, we feast. And then after all the festivities, Gaz comes over. So how did you like the festivities?
It was satisfying.
He's like, I knew it would be. Did you see me take down that building? It was great.
I was more focused on the blood coming from my enemies.
And he's like, the bloodthirsty one, eh? I had to fight quite a few of them in there. They didn't want me taking down the building on top of them. But that didn't stop me.
And how is it that you destroy such buildings?
Well, it's a little bit more trickier than you think. Every building has a weak point. You just gotta find it.
Interesting. I learned much the same about humans' armor.
Yes, that's true. He's like, after the festivities, I think Grauhurk might actually summon Serena, so we can get you squared away.
Very well. Who is this Serena?
She's, unfortunately, we still have to deal with the civilization, even if we don't like it. She's one of the members of the Azorius, who make the laws of the civilization that we destroy. But, if you need to know about planeswalkers, she's the one to talk to.
Very well. I will deal with this woman. If only that I can return home to where my true enemies lie.
That sounds like a noble goal. I would tell you how to do it, but alas, I am no planeswalker. I hear that only a planeswalker can teach another one how to use their abilities.
And this woman is one?
No, unfortunately. She knows more about them, and where you could find more. Again, I don't know anything about the inner city, but I'd be welcome to accompany with you, if you wish.
If you wish, I do not mind.
Very well. And then, after the festivities end, and Grauhurk calls over his shaman, and which is, the human, and he casts a little spell, and about an hour later, an elven woman, a very high elven woman, in white and blue robes, approaches the camp, and then Herc is the first one to see her. He's like, Serena is here. And then he beckons her forth. You can see that she's definitely holding in her urge to be like, you guys need to take a bath. But you could tell that she's not very happy that she worked with the Gruul. But she's like, I heard you have a planeswalker. And then he's like, yes, it'd be this man over here.
I stand up and approach her, kind of flexing my muscles, trying to show strength.
It's like, you seem to be quite strong. She pulls out the smallest pair of glasses, which have a different tint to them. She puts them on. They're like goggles almost. And she's like, he's indeed a planeswalker. He's like, he's like, that means we must get him checked in. And, I heard that you are not familiar with what a planeswalker is. I can most definitely, fill in some details along the way.
Along the way to where, Elf?
Well, to where we put the planeswalkers. You'll meet more of your...
Put them?
Say what?
Where you put them?
Yes, it's lodging.
At that, he's just kind of narrowing his eyes. Kind of sounds like they're going to put him in a cage.
It's like,
He doesn't like that.
not a cage. More a building. Have you ever slept on a bed? I know that you Gruul clan tend to like to sleep on the dirt, but you get to free lodging, food and drink, musical entertainment if you're into that, work if you want some of that. And
Very well.
he's like, yes. And then God steps up and he's like, I would like to come with. My friend seems not to be very trustworthy of the other races. I don't want him accidentally spurring conflict. He's like, that would be very lovely. He's like, if you don't mind, it is late. Would you like to go in the morning or would you like to go now?
We will leave now.
Very well. She's like, would you rather walk, teleport, or should I call a carriage?
At the mention of teleporting, he just kind of stiffens up. He's like, I need not your elven witchery. I will walk on my own two hooves.
Very well, we shall walk. It's like, I did need the exercise anyways. And, she's like, this way, and she beckons and she starts walking, and Gaz is like, he's like, one day I hope we can bring down the city center. That's where we'll be going. And, y'all start walking. And y'all walk out of the rubble that y'all have just created. And y'all start, you get to a small, like, maybe almost like a woodland park section. You walk through the woodland park section. And you come out of the woodland, like, once you leave the trees, it opens up. And you're like, oh wow. Because the city structures you just destroyed earlier were large, impressive. You were like, oh man, how would they take care of that? These city structures make those city structures look like jokes. We're talking spires. We're talking man-made rivers. We're talking,
Also, I don't really ask whether or not I can take my maul with me. But
You have it. He didn't. He gave you that weapon. You're good. You have it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I would have taken it.
Yeah, he would have definitely given it to you. And then, oh, I forgot to mention that Gra Herc would have given you the option that if you want to become an honorary Gruul, you most definitely can take the rights.
I will consider.
And he's like, yes, just if you return to us, just ask about the rights. We'll have you taken care of, and then you'll be an honorary member. We'll even throw in tattoos if you wish. Oh, by the way, if you noticed, the other Minotaurs and people, when they were fighting, their tattoos were glowing when they were raging.
Oh.
That's just something I forgot.
Too.
Yes, their tattoos glow with primal magic when they're raging.
Interesting.
Quite impressive. But yes, this first city structure you're bumping up in, it's got a man-made river that's about half a mile across, and it goes all the way around. They've got, spires like that would make the Etten look small. And There seems to be floating structures in the sky off in the distance, off to the left and the right. You see a couple of floating boats that fly, as well as galleons in this man-made river. And he's like, see what the structures do to the nature. Not a single speck of it. And you're looking around, and he's kind of right. Aside from like where they specifically said, "Oh yes, we'll put trees here to grow trees." There's not like nature. It's pretty much all man-made, everything. And he's like, "We aim to return this to the wild." And he's speaking to you in Minotaur. The elf is kind of ignoring you because y'all are speaking in a language he can't understand, and is just walking ahead of you. And you haven't started encountering other people yet, because not many people go towards the gruel section. And people before wouldn't go that way begin because they all knew, like public knowledge, don't go that way, there are slavers. But, now that y'all have taken down the slavers, people might start exploring this part of the town more.
Morgotho won't say this to guys, but he understands where he's coming from. But at the same time, seeing such a sprawling metropolis is kind of awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
He's never actually seen that in Theros.
Yeah. I mean, he's seen city structures, but like Roman structures, but he has never seen
something quite this big.
Yeah, it's like
massive.
It's like if you've only ever lived in the wild and then you go to New York City.
Yeah, there's plenty of wilds in Theros. There's nothing like this.
Yeah, and basically that's you understand the gravity of their quest. They want to return this to the wild. And that's why you get to the point where he's like, can they build faster than we can destroy? And then you look at how much they've built, and you're like, I don't know. That's one hell of a challenge you put on yourself.
Yep. They definitely did that.
And so now that you've gotten part of this part, you enter into another smaller wooded section past this part. You saw a few people walking around towards this next wooded section. And so far you've only seen a mix of like humans, elves. You've seen minotaurs, but you see less ogres, less giant ettins or giants. You don't see any. You see a giant every now and then walking around, but these people now that you're in the city are all wearing like common clothes. Even the giant is wearing like a full set of common clothes. Like these are all
strange.
Yes, like everyone, even the minotaurs are wearing common clothes in this part of the city. It's like everyone here is just a citizen. You see, of course, the humans and the elves, which you're used to seeing wearing common clothes, and yeah. As you get past this particular small section of the city, it's now reaching into close to almost midnight. It takes you quite a while to get to where you're going. And as nighttime gets to it's almost too dark to see, the streets start lighting up with like these torchlights that seem to be magical in nature. Yeah, they're like orbs that like those little like balls where you put your hands on it and it has the lightning that goes out to your hand. They're like that, but they're all throughout the street, and they give off a good 40 foot of light each one of them, and then like 40 foot of dim, so they're about 80 foot apart throughout the entire street, keeping it lit.
Gotcha.
So the streets are lit, at least this part of the street. And then you have to walk up onto like some kind of up a large bridge, which is at least 30 foot wide, up into a plateau, which is another wooded section, but it's on a plateau. So it's like bushes, shrubberies, flowers, trees, and it's like basically a natural park built on a plateau. A man-made plateau, by the way. And everything in here looks like it's man-made, except for, of course, the one parts of the trees. But you're getting up onto this plateau, and everything is pristine. Like the grass is exactly 3 inches. The flowers are perfectly pruned. The trees look like they're perfectly pruned. Nothing seems to be dying. You catch a glimpse of someone trimming the hedges, and you look over and you're like, that person is a dryad. That person's made of wood. Because you know what a dryad is, because you're from Theros.
Yeah, this is all a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah, it's pretty overwhelming. Like, and even though it's getting dark time, there's still no end to people walking the streets. You do see a couple paler people added into the mix, walking the street. Um, More so than normal. You did see a few of them when the daylight was out. I don't know.
Do they just look like pale humans?
Pale humans, pale elves. Um, there was a minotaur that walked by. Well, minotaurs can have red eyes, but his eyes were a little bit unnerving.
Well, out of character, I'm pretty sure these are vampires.
Yes, and they were out during the daylight, but these ones out during the nighttime are unnerving.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure he would know what a vampire is.
I don't know if vampires are on Theros either, so I can't quite tell.
I'm
I know that there is
like
a Greek
90%
mythology that's
sure
similar.
That even if they are in Theros, he would have never encountered one.
Yeah, but the ones that are out at night are different from the ones that are out in day. The ones that are out in day are out in day. That automatically tells you what what type of vampire that is. Well, or at least it tells you that that vampire is immune to sunlight.
Yeah, I'm just not entirely sure even that would bear any significance to him.
You do notice a new breed of human or humanoid creature that you've never seen before. They seem to be quite large, similar to yourself in stature, but they have gray skin, large ears, and a very long nose with tusks.
And that he just is kind of like Elephant Man.
Yes, God speaks up on that one. They're called Luxodons.
A strange land this Ravnica.
Well, you're the first person I've met that's not been from Ravnica, so it's a little... I'm assuming it would be different from other places.
Aye. Where I come from, minotaurs are not so readily accepted.
He's
They
like...
do not wear these garments.
He's like, us Gruul are all about taking down this civilization, but you'll find that almost all the races are accepted here. There's only...
Is strange.
He points to one of those unnerving vampires. Most people don't like those ones.
What are they?
They are... He goes, those are there's a name for it. I have to look it up. But they're vampires, but they're where he explains where a normal vampire will just drink humanoid blood to sustain themselves. Those vampires drink memories.
Morgatho's pretty unnerved at that.
Yes. And he's like, but they are still citizens, and as long as they don't drink from a willing target or or normally they're used as executioners, interrogators, so they can get their memories that way.
At this point, Morgatho kind of is going to play devil's advocate. And he looks at Gaz and says, and when you tear down this civilization, who will restrain them?
He's like, this is the great battle. Well, more of a survival of the fittest rule after we've torn down civilization, I assume. Go back to the way things used to be.
The old way is better.
Yes. He's like, I agree. I wish we could just be nomadic raiders, but when the city structures are as big as this, tearing down what you can is what we do.
And Morgato just kind of nods. And then says out loud in common, like in a whisper, but kind of a carrying whisper, I am surprised the elf woman has been able to keep such a pace.
He, and then her ear twitches at that, and she's like, honestly, I'm quite tired. She's like, I was really hoping that we would teleport to catch a carriage. She's like, I normally spend my days handling paperwork, not walking great distances. That's basically all she says to that. She's like, should be a little under about an hour now before we reach our destination.
Morgato kind of grunts and he just continues to stare around at everything, taking in all the strange new sights and sounds and smells.
So now that, like I said, y'all are in kind of a central park area, we get to the center of the central park area. There seems to be a performance going on, and it appears to be a mixture of bards, and what looks to be a keen performance. You can tell that there's some form of fire involved in the performance, as you can see it at a distance, as it's nighttime, and of course it makes a nice glare. As you approach, these minstrels are dressed in very unusual garb. You seem to be it seems to be more akin to wearing leathers, and they have tattoos but of a different origin. They almost look like runes instead of tribal tattoos. And while they're playing, there are two people juggling fire, and they're not just fire, they're like flaming axes, back and forth between the two each other. And in between throwing the axes, before the other one catches another one, they'll breathe fire in the air. And the people breathing fire and juggling axes appear to be of a red skin and have horns. They're of a humanoid variety with tails. So tieflings, basically, but in Ravnica they would be devils instead of tieflings. They don't actually have it classified as devil, but they're tieflings. And then off in the back you have behind them there's a big wheel with someone on the wheel, and a demon with cloven hooves is throwing axes at the person on the wheel, and everyone's like, wow, woo, cheering on the act. It's like a performance, pretty much, as y'all go by.
In Minotaur, I'm going to ask Gaz, what manner of diamond are these?
Well, he points at the devils. He's like, those are devils, and that one's a demon. They're of the Rakdos Guild, or clan. They're all about their unnerving performances and music. He's like, this one's quite tame, honestly, from the ones that I have seen in my lifetime.
Huh.
Think of the word demon and then add the word jester at the end. That quite weirdly sums up a good majority of them.
I see. And I just keep walking after the elf.
Yep. So get past that part, and you come out, and through the rest of the village. It's nighttime, so you're not gonna see the people in the sky, especially since you don't have low light vision or dark vision. But you'll hear what sounds like some things fly overhead. Since you're in the Central Park area. And as y'all are walking through the last part, and you come out off the other end of the plateau, and there's a large bridge that goes across into a looks like a man-made island with a huge man-made river that goes around it and then sprouts off into different directions. And I say man-made island, I'm talking this island from afar is about the size of Manhattan.
Oh, wow.
Of course, the bridge isn't quite that far away, but you go off this plateau across the bridge into the island, and then you start roaming around, and it's like a windward path that goes down. And on this path, it seems like this would be during the day. There would be people set up for shops. There's stalls everywhere with closed signs, and their wares are put away. However, as you're going around the corner, there is a gentleman still peddling blood, a pale human gentleman in white and black robes. Like, get your fresh blood here, get your fresh blood. There are a few other pale gentlemen buying from him. That's my favorite, one of the merchants that I had to make, because he's peddling blood.
Oh, yeah. Well, vampires gotta eat.
Yep. And he's like, just in, dragonberry flavor, just in. Flavored blood.
True blood.
And you rotate around, and you get to the docks, or we get to a waterfront area with some docks, and off on the side there's still some people setting up docks. Looks like they're receiving cargo. You got minotaurs hauling large crates, but you also see a new set of humanoids. Well, you know what they are from Theros. They're merfolk. Of course, the merfolk here look slightly different from the merfolk in Theros. Like, I've noticed that as far as Magic the Gathering goes, merfolk from different planes look different, but they're all about similar structures. So you're like, that's a merfolk. It's a little bit different from what I'm used to. That's a merfolk.
Yep.
And they're loading and unloading on the ship. And again, like, the races have not died down, and the city structures have not gotten any smaller or any bigger. They've been just as big. Of course, at this point, you're just kind of awe-inspired. And then,
yeah, this place is very strange.
And then, y'all coming up on this building. It has a red roof. The front part of the building seems to have a kind of a Greek amphitheater, sort of like the Lincoln Monument in the front, where it's got the steps with the pillars. But then it goes into like Gothic spires in the back, and it's a very large building. And she's like, this is the building. She's like, this is where we'll get you checked in, and you can talk to other planeswalkers about learning how to planeswalk. And she kind of goes over I'm sure you've noticed by now that the city is very much welcoming to all races. But planeswalkers we take a little bit more seriously due to a war that happened due to an evil planeswalker that had occurred upon our realm about 50 years ago. And he's like, so now we just have to make sure that we have all the planeswalkers' names and are cataloged, so we just know who you are. So this is just where we basically catalog you. We get your name and where you're from, and she's like, we give you a badge that says that if you get stopped by any of the guards, or you just show them your badge, and they're like, well, carry along, instead of, you're not in the system, therefore you have to come with us. To avoid unwanted conflict. She's like,
That's so.
Yes. She's like, if you want to be more in depth as y'all are walking up the steps. She's like, the war was with a evil dragon that happened to be a planeswalker, and he came with an army of undead, and woof, it was quite a battle. And Gaz was like, I wasn't born then, but my father told me of it. It was quite a battle from what I hear. That's the only reason why the Gruul get along so well with the rest of the clans now. She's like, you saw them clans, but they're guilds. Basically, all the guilds and clans had to band together in order to defeat this dragon and his army. Which is why we take such precautions with planeswalkers now, just in case one wants to be as twisted as that dragon. And she walks up to the there's like a little desk kiosk, and it says it's closed off, but she knocks like a rhythm, and then it opens up, and she's like, I have a planeswalker to check in. And then she signs some papers. She turns around and asks for your name.
I am Morgothel, the Rager.
Understandable. She writes that down. And she returns with a small badge, and she hands you the badge. She's like, you need to keep this on your person. Just like I said, to avoid unwanted combat or unwanted conflict. Also, it's quite expensive to replace.
I take it and drop it in my loincloth.
Very well. She's like, no, unfortunately, only planeswalkers and Azorius officials or entertainment are allowed inside the building. So guys will have to either wait here until you're done checking in, or you'll meet him back at the Gruul section if you want. And Gaz is like, civilization and their laws.
I kind of look at Gaz and like, I will return.
He's like, very well. I'll meet you back at the camp. We'll be at that ruined area we were. You basically just walk straight this way and you'll encounter it eventually.
Alright.
We'll be there for well over a week. While we plot our next festivity.
Very well. I shall return in due time.
Very well. This was good. Enjoying the festivities with you, brother. He gives you a small pat on the shoulder, and then he turns around and walks away.
I just kind of grunt at him as he walks away.
And then shows you walk up to the building, and there's a guard there, and there's one of those elephant people wearing plate mail with a that seems to have a flaming fist on the chest of the plate mail, and he's guarding the door with a halberd in one hand. And the other guy is another gentleman who, while you walked up to him, he's wearing the plate armor, but his face and where his skin would be is made of fire. So he's like an elemental wearing armor.
As we walk up to these people, I'm kind of, like flexing a little bit, trying to show power.
Understandable. The Flamekin doesn't bother you at all. The Luxodon's like, a new planeswalker. And he's like, very well. He opens the door. He's like, right this way. And then,
I follow the elephant.
is someone at my door? Yeah, someone's at my door. 1 second.
Okay.
It's just my dad came over, so that's why it's taking a minute. But I'll be back to you once they leave.
That fur is fluffy too.
You hear me?
She sheds like crazy.
What? Dustin? Dustin.
Hey, yeah, I actually have to run to town right quick anyway, so reconvene in 30?
Sounds good. I'll pause the recording here, and then we'll start back up in a little bit.
Okay.
All right. All right. So sorry about that little break. If anyone ever watches this, my dad showed up unannounced, so I had to spend time with him, and my Dustin here had to go down to his workplace for a bit. So now we're reconvening where we left off, which was you were entering the building, the Luxodon and the woman. So you walk into this building, and player, you'd be like, oh wow, this is a 5-star hotel lobby. Characters like, this is really fancy. The only difference between a 5-star hotel headset died there. The only difference between a 5-star hotel lobby and this lobby is that there are similar people wearing the same plate mail as inside at the exits, and she just besmirks that the story with the dragon. We have those in case there are people that want to cause harm, regardless of us attempting to be civil or nice. So as long as you don't go on a rampage inside the building, you'll be just fine. And then she takes you to the back and up the stairs.
When she says that, I just like, no promises.
Like, I'll let you figure out whether or not it's worth it or not. But she brings you up the stairs, and you get up to the stairs, and upstairs is like a huge lobby with a stage in the middle of it, and off to the right it's a small like marbled floor section. It's off different from the rest of it. As far as the lobby's concerned, there's a whole bunch of different people in various different types of armor, different races. You see someone that looks like they could have been from Theros over here. You see this person in this weird armor that as a player character you'd probably be like, that person might be from Waterdeep. And they're out on the lobby. And currently playing at the on the stage is another one of those demon ilk with the hooves playing on a brass instrument in a suit, playing the smoothest jazz ever. And the elf notes, Draximos is playing. I might stay afterwards. And she motions for you to sit down off to the marble section. You see there's a bench with various people sitting on the bench. Off on the very end, there seems to be an elf. On the end closest to you, there seems to be a tiefling. There's a gentleman in full armor. He's like in full black armor, sitting on the bench. There's a satyr or satire. No, satyr. Satyr's right. I said it right the first time. Which you recognize. He seems to be wearing Therosian garb. He's currently chatting up with a bard. And there are a couple other mix of people sitting on this bench. And she just motions you to sit over on the bench and then wait until you're called, and they'll get you checked in and they'll give you a room and board.
I stand.
Okay, if you want to stand, you can. As long as you stand over there. And she points over into the marble section.
I reluctantly go and stand over there.
All right. While you're standing over there, you're not proficient in magic, but you do realize that the bard was the satyr that was messing with the bard. The bard was plucking on his instrument, but you couldn't hear it. But now that you're standing inside the marbled area, you can hear his instrument now. He's trying to pluck in tune with the gentleman currently performing out on the stage. And the elf waves goodbye, and then she goes and joins the other guests over on to the right at a table with other people wearing the same garb, the white and blue robes, to enjoy, I guess, the musician. And
I kind of look this satyr up and down. I said, "You satyr, are you a planeswalker as well?"
he's like, this would be Andrew's character. He tries to talk to you, or originally I had your character just try to him off, but he'd probably be somewhere in lines. I so have been told. I'm not quite exactly sure what it is.
I see.
Andrew was basically like, "Hey, Theros brother." That's what he wanted to be like when you showed up. Because I told him that you haven't showed up yet because everyone showed up in order of how I did the session.
You want to have Andrew jump in here right quick?
If he's on, if he wants to jump in real quick, that can have a quick little back and forth. Uh, That's basically his character.
Sounds like he's Lebowski.
Yeah. He's just a party animal.
I'm not Mr. Lebowski. I'm the dude.
But yeah. All I can line of his character, he'd probably just be like, the Theros brother, after this, want to party? I know where to get some drugs. That would probably be
I
his.
do not party.
He'd be like, oh, bummer. And he'd probably go mess with the bard some more. And then, while you're sitting there, you notice that the elf gets called back. I'm sure as you don't really care about their names at this point, so you're probably not paying attention. The tiefling gentleman gets called back. The human in black armor gets called back. The bard human gets called back. The satyr gets called back. A couple other people get called back, and then you finally get called back. The gentleman walks out, and he's been stating people's full name, and your character doesn't have any, but just the one name, and right?
He usually adds on the Rager.
I know, but I mean, like that's everything. That's it. He doesn't have like Morgothel, the Rager, blacksmith, or something at the end, right?
No.
Okay, yeah. So you just get your Morgothel, the Rager, and the guy motions for you to come to the back room.
I stand up and approach him, and I flex.
Yeah, this particular human in his armor is a little taken aback, but he's like, just follow the lines and knock when you get to the door. And then he points, and there's some arrows in the back of the room. And he goes and He goes and sits to his desk off to the left at the arrows.
All right, I follow the arrows.
Follow the arrows to a door. Can your character read?
I believe he can somewhat read.
Alright. Well, then you'll notice that, not too hard to notice, but on this door is written in different languages, including one you recognize, one in Minotaur and one in Therosian Common, which is a different written script, because you haven't been paying attention to any script lately. It's different written script from the Common they use here. And it says, please knock.
I punch the door.
The door holds fast. It was not quite a weak door. But after you hit the door opens, and across the room is a lady dressed in white and black robes, and she's quite pale, but she has one red eye and one blue eye. She smiles a toothy smile. She says, "Hello, darling," and she's like, "Could please sit." She messaged to the chair, or stand. I see that you like to stand where you're out in the hallway.
I will stand.
I'm like, well, do come in. Come in. She motions for you to come in.
I look her up and down. And I was like, "You are one of those, a vampire."
She's like, "Oh, yes." She's like quite keen of you to pick up on that. Most people don't recognize that right away.
I have been instructed.
He's like, don't worry, I'm not the type that drink your memories. Although I could if I wanted to, but I'm not interested in that. I'm just here to get you checked in. She's like, my name is Andraste. Come.
I am Margato, the Rager.
Yes. She's like, I know quite a little about you. Come on. She wants you to come in so you can close the door.
I do.
Alright. As you come in, the door closes on its own. Like, she flicks her wrist and the door closes. And then, you come in and come stand over where she messaged, and then she walks off to the side. And then you turn, as you turn around to face her, there's an 8-foot tall woman sitting at a desk with wings sprouting out of her back. She has greaves and gauntlets, and she's in a mixture of blue and white robes. And she's got spectacles over those half spectacles on her eyes, and she's going through paperwork on the desk. And she's like, "This is a loon, and we're going to be checking you in, Morgothel. You're quite the interesting fellow." And she goes over. She basically, without asking you questions, kind of goes over your last few days on Theros, and how that it's all good and all. I understand why you did it, but if you could keep that sort of barbaric display to a minimum while you're here, I'm sure you'll get along quite well with the rest of the Ravnican populace. So she basically mentions your backstory, or some of your backstory, without actually asking you about it.
As she's doing all this, Margato is getting more and more agitated.
It's like, don't worry, we're not here to harm you. Just gonna give you the rules of the land, and if you do enjoy combat, so you wish, you may seek work. She's like, the first week's board here is free. Afterwards, if you wish to stay here, you have to pay for it. Otherwise, you could stay with the nice Gruul members that seem to have taken a liking to you. And she goes over a few things. She's like, Don't be alarmed. Just hold still for a second. There's a small. She holds out a little ball. There's a small flash of light. She's like, normally, I would let. Not quite sure how you would react to the ball, so I just. And she hands the
He
ball over
does.
to Alun.
He does kind of flinch when it happens and growls.
She's like, no harm. She hands the ball over to Alun, and Alun takes the ball and puts it on a piece of paper she had prepared, and hits the button. And Alun, who I think there are angels in Theros, or so you're like, that's an angel. Looks up, is like, look. She's like, you don't seem to be an idiot, so I'm just trying to tell you that this is not where you're from. Where you're from is, I almost want to say, primitive compared to here.
So I have seen.
She's like, the populace of Ravnica, she's like, you've been told that this realm is called Ravnica. Even in the Gruul lands, you saw ruins. Pretty much the entire planet is coated in either ruins or city structure. This is not one small or one very large city. The whole planet is a city. She's like, our population is in the vast numbers, almost uncountable. We're very diverse, and we tend to treat everyone here well, as long as they follow most of the rules. Of course, there's always those outliers or those that don't get caught. It is quite a large populace.
So you say.
Yes. We try to keep it very cordial here.
It has been my experience that honeyed words spit poison.
It depends on who spits them. She's like, I'm not known for deceit, but words are words, as you say. But as far as you've known, you haven't been accosted. So, you should at least have some truth to what we say. Then they basically go over the rules of the land, like I said before, and they kind of just basically say, try to not go on a rampage and don't kill someone unless, someone attacks you first, and then you're fully justified to decimate them. And then that flash of light in the ball, now that it got done, she says, she holds up the paper. That's what the flash of light was for, and it's basically a painting, but it looks almost exactly like you, almost like someone took a picture in real life, but it's a painting. And she's like, she puts the painting in her little folder, closes her folder, utters a little bit of words, a little magic circle goes around her hands over the folder, and even though you put it in your glowing cloth, you notice that the badge glows through your clothes, and she's like, the badge just contains your name, who you are, where you're from, and she kind of goes over that it's expensive to replace, don't lose it, it'll keep you out of trouble. They explain that all planeswalkers are supposed to have this badge on them to signify that they're planeswalkers and that they've been checked into the system, and those not in the system are basically walking around illegally, and that's the reason why you were brought here. Both of them say that you've been looking at trying to get home, and while neither one of them are planeswalkers themselves, you're more than welcome to ask any of the planeswalkers out in the lobby once you get out here. And then Andraste and Alun both say that once you leave out the door behind you, which is a different door from the one you came in at, she's like, you'll be back out into a lobby where you can get food and drink, and then You'll wait there until we have at least, I think we have 4 more people to check in, and then afterwards we'll just give you all one more spiel of the rules before we let you loose, and then you can do whatever you want. Well, I say do whatever you want, but you know what I mean. He was
Very
like,
well.
all right. And with that, welcome to Ravnica. I hope that you have a pleasant stay.
One
And
would hope I would not be over long.
yes. She's like, the only other thing I have to note is, if you see a large magical circle in the sky, then, you'll be unable to leave the plane for a short time. We turned that on in order to catch criminals that happen to be of the planeswalker variety. If we have to turn it on, then note that we are on a manhunt, and then we'll turn it off once we capture the criminal. She does note that that'd be the only thing that would stop you from leaving once you figure out how to leave, obviously. She's like, but as of right now, there's no manhunt currently active, so. And then they message for you the door, and you just wait in the lobby until we get done checking people in. And then me and Andraste will meet up with you in the group and give you your last spiel. You can get food and drink while you're there. Any other questions you have for us, dear Minotaur?
He just kind of stares at her for a few seconds, and without saying anything, turns towards the door.
She's like, and Andraste's like, do try to be good, dearie, as you leave out the door. And if you walk down the hallway and come out into basically a smaller lobby where you see the satyr, the man in the full black armor, the bard, the elf, the tiefling, all sitting at various tables, along with a bunch of other people that you didn't see before. You can sit at an empty table if you want.
He stands.
Stand off in the corner. While you're standing off in the corner of
Not really off in the corner. He's going to assert his dominance and stand in the middle of the room.
okay. Well, while you're standing in the middle of the room, a gentleman or a lady walks up in you assume a servant's attire, and they ask if you would care for any food or drink.
Meat. Bloody.
That be raw or medium?
Rare.
Very well. And they return with basically meat on a spit, like kind of like lamb. Like if you ever go to a store and you order lamb, you see the lamb off in the corner where it's on the rotating spit. They basically bring you that.
I eat my mutton while staring at the other people in the room and flexing my muscles.
The only one that really gives you a dirty eye is that man in that black armor, but all you can really see is his eyes. He's got like a face mask that covers it. He's basically wearing samurai armor.
I stare him down especially hard.
And he stares you down harder. But then he kind of gives up and returns to his drink and food.
I grunt. Continue eating. Victorious. He could not hold my gaze.
But yeah, this is basically the let off point where everyone's in the same spot. So we're pretty much done with session 0.
Cool.
So you like it so far?
Oh, yeah. I know I'm being a little bit quiet, but that is Morgothel.
Yeah, it's fine. You ask questions to the Minotaur and not really to anyone else, so you at least ask more questions than I think one of the characters is kind of real quiet, but that's because he was playing his character right too. But yeah, I enjoy it so far. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording right here.